Hey everyone, Heather here, and for today's video, I wanted to highlight some of the comments that I got on my last video because some of you brought up some really interesting points, and the whole purpose of me starting this channel was to be able to geek out with other gamers who are into the same things that I'm into. So even though this is going to be a little bit of a different video, I think this will allow us to have more of a dialogue rather than just me talking at you and telling you what I think. So that being said, here is your spoiler warning. If you haven't watched my last video, you probably want to do that first since all of these comments are from that video. The thing that we're going to be talking about is all the way up to the end of Shadowbringers. So if you haven't finished Shadowbringers, you probably want to save this one for later. I promise my next video will not have any spoilers at all. I'm really excited about it. So our first comment is from Jack Archer X, and also Jack, I want to give you a shout out for the way that you formatted your comment with this giant space here to just protect other viewers who might need that spoiler warning. I really appreciate that, just because, you know, I'd hate for my channel to spoil the journey that is Final Fantasy XIV. So Jack Archer says, something that helped the Eorzea storyline so much for me was the presence of Dulia Chai and Chai Nuz. The two nobles were so used to living under Vathri's reign that they didn't think twice to dismiss their servants, not even stopping to think of the implications of their actions. All Chai Nuz wanted was to make his wife happy, and all Dulia Chai wanted was to live the rest of her days with Chai Nuz, regardless of the circumstances. So when Dulia takes a liking to Alphinaud and he reveals to them the horrors of what Eorzea has been doing, they both get hit right in the face with the consequences of their actions. How every single servant they've dismissed is either living in exile or dead. The meal made them docile, but they still had a very strong moral compass. It's just their circumstances had clouded it almost entirely to the point of obliviousness. This serves as a contrast to Vathri, who also never knew better. He was always told that he could lead Eorzea to a new future through a life of luxury and pure hedonism, but that, even though he was shown very clearly what his actions were causing, he never developed a sense of morality. Vathri was told he was a savior, so in his mind, he was the only important person in the end. So when Eomer's reign fell, his only instinct was to flee and defended himself in Mount Gulg. Meanwhile, the Chais instead took charge for restructuring Eomer and helping of Eorzea thrive for the first time since the flood. So I really loved this comment because I didn't even think of the parallel of comparing Vathri to Dulia Chai and Chai Nuz, because I think that their characters are also another contrast, the same way that the Crystal Exarch and Vathri are contrast. Here are two parties that are in the same situation, because it's different for the Crystal Exarch and different for Alphinaud when we're not even originally from the first, right? So you can make that argument of like, who are you to tell us what to do? You can never really know what it's like to live in Norvrant. They live in the same city, they have the same circumstances, but for some reason, when they are presented with new information, new ideas, they react and take action very, very differently. It's hard with Vathri because he is so ignorant, but I think it's hard to blame him for that ignorance if his whole world has just been one way. But both Vathri and the Chais were presented with a different view, a different perspective, and they reacted very differently. That's when Vathri is like beyond. It's very clear he's beyond saving, because he is so stuck. Like, for whatever reason, he's so stuck on, I am the savior. It has to be this way because it's always been this way. I think the whole Chai storyline is so interesting because it's like, at first when we meet them, they seem like two random NPCs that are just like, okay, Eomorian citizens, whatever. And I didn't realize how much I would fall in love with these two characters and their whole, you know, little plot arc in Shadowbringers. You are really rooting for them, right? Like, they very much feel a part of your team. They kind of validate, like, okay, we might have this view and this like suggestion of how to save Norvrant, but that's because we're looking from the outside in. It helps to have that buy-in of, like, you know, the actual citizens who live in that world. And when we leave, like, who is going to continue to carry this out? And it's nice that, like, yeah, despite the circumstances, there are people who are willing to take up that mantle, unlike Vothri. All right, next comment is from William Klett. You have to remember that Vothri was just a tool of Emmett's, not a real villain, a misguided child rather than a major threat. I think this is the thing that makes it so much more of a tragic story, because it's like he's just a tool being used, and I don't think he ever realizes it. I don't think he ever learns that, right? Because by the time Emmett Selk jumps in, when you kill Innocence, like, Innocence has already faded away. So I don't even think he realizes, like, yeah, you feel like you are this savior and this very, you have this very important role to play. But the only reason why you have this power and you have this role is because someone was manipulating your dad to begin with and, like, cause this whole thing. And you're just kind of like a cog in the wheel. That makes it more sad to me. Like, that makes me feel more sympathy for Vothri, is that he was just being used the whole time and never realizes it ever. Oof. All right, next comment is from Happy280. Love the way you described Vothri and Yulmore. I initially found it hard to sympathize with him at all, but that final cutscene really made me pause. Your description of his innocence was spot on. I'm curious though, what are your thoughts on Vothri's right-hand man, Ranjit? I always assumed he was just being mind controlled by Vothri, but Ranjit explicitly says he is acting under his own beliefs. He remains a bit of an enigma to me, and I can't help but feel like they had to cut a lot of his backstory for whatever reason. So Ranjit is interesting to me because I don't think that he was mind controlled at all. The way that I see his character is that he's just like a desperate father, right? Because he does have a leadership position in the society. He has, like, seen the suffering. He's lost loved ones. He's lost battle after battle. There's nothing else to be done. I have tried everything. We have tried everything. We have, like, the most resources in this world, and we've tried everything, and we keep losing. So I feel like in his desperation of, like, this is just how the world is going to be, and at the same time having the responsibility of caring for the Minfilias, having to see, a daughter figure of his suffer or die. Like, I can't remember exactly what happens to them, but, like, he's had to go through that over and over again. And I think he just got to a point where it was like, enough is enough. So even though it sucks, like, even though what I'm doing is probably not something I would have done in the past, for the sake of protecting the world that we know, and, like, this is just the way that it has to be, and this is how we can cause the least amount of suffering, I'm going to fight for that. All right, next comment, Mars Angel. I mean, yeah, what you say would happen, and there are people that will enable that kind of system. Even today, it's something you can see. These people were mind controlled to a point of obedience, but they still had some sense of self-awareness. This brings up a whole point that I forgot to mention, which is the Mial thing. Here's Fido Montoya saying, great video, I also get Suyu, which is my pick for most tragic villain. I definitely have thoughts about that, but I'll save it for another video. Also, weren't the Umorian citizens codified and basically under Vothri's spell because they ate the meal, which is made from Sin Eater? I think the game states that it took years of eating meal for citizens to completely become docile and corrupted by it. So I completely forgot about the meal thing when I was making my video. I think it was you, Marky Mark. Yeah, the revelation of Miel is one of the most chilling moments I felt in the game. Me too. Like, when I found that out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is some dark-ish. But for some reason, like, I forgot about it as I was making my last video. And I think the reason why I did is because how do I explain this? It's like, it's gross, right? The idea of feeding Sin Eater in a foodstuff to people with the intention of them, like, losing some of their individuality and self-control, right? Like, that is gross. However, in the society that is Yulmore, that has been pushed to such an extreme for generations, I can totally believe that even knowing that that is what is happening, and that is what they are eating, and that is what that stuff is made out of, and all of that, I can see some people just signing up for that willingly in order to partake in the lifestyle that is Eorzea. Like I really do see people wanting to sign up for the willful ignorance, right? Like if you know you're gonna die anyway, don't you want to, like, wouldn't you want to go out with the least amount of pain, with the least amount of suffering? Like if you can be controlled so that you are docile, but then also like get to go to that club every night and like, you know, eat whatever you want and like have servants and all that. Like I just see people being okay with that. I wouldn't be okay with that, but I totally see people being okay with that, like even despite knowing that that is the darkness and the reality behind it. Cypher Zero says, for me this was obvious, but the reason that people didn't react in the throne room is because Vothri was controlling them. The only people he couldn't control was Kaishir, Alphino, and the Warrior of Light. Notice how people outside the throne room showed emotions like the Chai showing disgust, being impressed at a painting, or the one dude caring about her slave not being able to sing. While in the throne room, people just stood at the entrance. If the people cared about Vothri, they would have stopped you from going out of the room, but they didn't. They just stood there looking at Vothri. Only after Vothri throws a fit did the people and soldiers react. I can't remember like who was eating the meal. Was it everybody? Was it a certain amount of people? I don't remember, especially when you find out what the meal is, because I'm pretty sure where it happens is outside of the walls, right? Like in that little town that's outside of the walls of Eorzea. And I think they realize like, oh yeah, the people out here are hungry, and then these two jester looking people come out and give out the meal, and no one cares what it is because they're hungry and it's food. And then we find out what it is and it's like, okay, that's totally gross. But like in Eorzea, do they know? I don't think they know, right? I don't think they know what happens, because I think from what I remember, they do this thing called ascension or something like that, right? Like, I don't know. They like level up somehow in the society and then they're never seen again. And I think that's because they're being turned into a Sin Eater or meal or something like that. So it is super dark. And actually, the more I think about this, yeah, the Eorzea like obviously don't know. That definitely makes it seem more malicious, right? Like I think my whole argument in my last video was that Vothri is innocent. But in this context, it's like, no, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing, and you're not being transparent about it. It's one thing if you are transparent about it and everyone's buying into this. I don't know. It almost kind of dampens the story of Vothri for me, because now it's not even so much about survival. It's now a quest for power, which is like, you know, I don't know. It's like, I know his dad had a thirst for power, which is why he collaborated with Emmett Selk in the first place, to kind of ensure that his family line would rule. But I like the idea of Vothri just kind of like playing his part. I think that's what makes the character so tragic. So yeah, I'm not even sure where the meal fits. I think we can all agree that idea is super gross though. Next comment is from Erichi. I think the reason people didn't say anything in the Kaishir incident is because they're either docile, tempered from meal, seen this many times, fear Vothri, fear change to the status quo, buy into his logic like Ranjit, or a mixture of all. I think that is what is so fascinating with Final Fantasy XIV, is that the world is so built out, the circumstances are so built out, where it isn't a direct like, you know, these people feel this way or are reacting this way as a result of this. All of those can apply, you know, and I like that a lot of it is left in like to interpretation as a player, because like, you know, like I said, the tempered for meal is gross, but like buying into his logic like Ranjit, or fearing a change in the status quo, like those are, I don't know, more interesting motivations to me for Eorzea than like, you know, just being controlled. And I like, you know, I liked how there's some of that can be flexible in terms of how we are all interpreting the story. I think that's what makes it so dynamic and leaves so much of an impression, because we're all kind of like digesting the story differently. I feel weird for saying digesting after talking about the meal. Next comment, Try Hard Songbird. Your point here is very interesting, because I was just thinking about this as I'm playing through AR on an alt. Like right before the end of AR, we straight up kill Garlean conscripts in cold blood, people who joined against their own will for the most part, just to borrow their uniforms. Like the story goes out of its way to say, hey, go get some uniforms, only from ones who are recently deceased. Wink, wink will do. Revisiting it with the context of everything afterwards has been pretty mind-bending. I think my point here was like, we, as the good guys, the Scions, we're also making choices, making sacrifices, killing people for the sake of what we believe. And yeah, actually I just played that part recently as I'm doing New Game Plus, and I had the same thought, like, wow, we're just, you know, these people weren't even like wanting to necessarily join the Garlean army. They just had to do that because they were invaded and had no choice. And now we, you know, because we need to take their, we need uniforms, we're just gonna kill them. Next comment is from Jason Garrett. Secondhand embarrassment. Yes, that's Vothri, all right. In a cast stacked with great voice actors, I feel like Vothri's is severely underrated. He absolutely owns it, eliciting disgust and pity both. There's a surprising bit of nuance in such a hammy performance, but damn, do I hate that innocence. Hog's the best male hairstyle in the game. Yes, I think the other comment I had is about Vothri's voice acting from Self-Help. I don't think I had the chance to feel much toward him because I was always just so in awe of the vocal performance. That sort of old Disney over-the-top villain performance feels rare these days, and God, was I basking in it. His voice acting definitely stood out. As I get older and more unimpressed with various tendencies of people, I don't think I'll ever get enough of how often Japanese storytellers explore the reality that there is a very fine line between hero and villain. I just wish more people understood how relevant it is to real everyday life. I think we'd all be a little happier if we got that. Yeah, I think that's what it is, right? Like, as a 37-year-old, I'm just like, I'm not surprised. That's why, as much as I wouldn't want a society like Eorzea to exist, because I wouldn't want to be a part of it, I wouldn't want it to exist, but I'm also not surprised. I've met enough people, and I'm pretty sure I know people who would totally sign up for not only living in a Eorzea society, but also for eating the meal willingly. That's what's so fascinating about Final Fantasy XIV, is because I think there is such a fine line, especially with the other antagonists that are in the game, of like, you understand and can really empathize with their backstory, and you understand the motivations behind why they are doing what they are doing, which brings me to how I'm going to end this video. So I had a couple comments that were suggesting, you know, other antagonists, other characters I could talk about, i.e. Emmett Selk and Xenos and all of that. And honestly, like, I'm not sure how to approach these characters, just because I obviously do want to talk about them. I have thoughts, but I do feel like there are certain characters that are so dynamic in that when I do my next playthrough, right, like as I get to that part in New Game Plus, I honestly feel like my opinion on them might evolve. And so, like, I'm not sure whether to just make the video now. Like with the Vothri video, I just made that. I hadn't, like, that's just based on my experience of having played through that part in like June and from what I remember now, right? And who knows, like maybe when I replay through Shadowbringers, I'll have more thoughts to say. And that's how I'm feeling with these other characters, because they are such major characters. I don't know. Like, I don't know whether to make, like, I don't know, maybe it is like a 2-parter video. Like, these are my thoughts now. And then when I do my second playthrough, maybe I can, I don't know. Maybe my opinion will be the same. I don't know. What do you think? I have I have a lot of other video ideas that I'm planning to do before I even get to those. I don't know. I'm having fun either way. It's super fun to talk about Final Fantasy XIV and to think about it and to make these YouTube videos. It's been a blast. Also, this isn't the first time that I've talked about Final Fantasy XIV characters on this channel. So if you missed my other video where I talk about the Scions and what I think of them, you can check out this video next. And I'll see you over there. Catch you in the next one. Bye.